You're going to close that door, right? Okay, it's not like the podcast is live or anything.
It's actually a secret code, kind of like the chairs against the wall, or John has a long mustache.
Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 209 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live My Laundry Machine is Running in 2019.
That's how you know it's live.
That's right. It's a dead giveaway. My name is Ian. I'm a hobby farmer, reloader, and sport shooter on Vancouver Island.
I'm Gavin, a business owner, gun owner, volunteer first responder, and CCFR field officer for the GTA.
My name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian, and it sounds like, due to my lovely wife, I will have clean underpants in the near future because for some reason we're running laundry during the show.
Success.
Well, you wouldn't want to get caught, going to the hospital with dirty underwear, right? Imagine what the nurses would think if they saw that.
Yeah.
Some people are into that.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. You can find the show on Stitcher, iTunes, and I still don't know if Spotify's working. I can't tell.
Yeah, probably not. But once you've done all of that and downloaded each episode from all of the different streams to bump our numbers up, because we appreciate that, you can check the podcast out on Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
And if you couldn't tell by the riveting intro, we need your help to support the show. Do we ever? To support the show, visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. The more you pledge, the better the rewards are. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link on the right.
All right, so it's time to do What Are We Drinking? We'll go clockwise on the screen now because I rearranged everybody. Gavin, what are you drinking?
Just before we start that, I'd like to say some of you regular listeners may have noticed that our sponsor is no longer listed above this. So if you want to sponsor the What Are We Drinking by sending us alcohol, get in touch with the show. But I am drinking James E. Pepper 1776 rye this evening.
Ooh.
And Coke Zero.
Sounds revolutionary.
It is. It's better than all the tea in the harbor.
Excellent. Speaking of tea, as for myself,
Ian, what are you drinking?
atrazine-free well water and black tea.
Oh,
I got to
no
pick up
atrazine, huh?
Who would want those frogs gay, right? So, it's...
I get a few people, but...
Yeah. I got to pick up the daughter after work, so I got to stay off the hooch for now. So
you really got to start charging her for those pickups.
It's like daddy Uber. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
All right, I'm drinking a smash that I made poorly. So it's single malt, single hop. It's a Centennial and 2-row, and it's really, really, really overcarbonated because apparently I mathed wrong.
It happens.
Tastes good. Beer. Gonna get me drunk. Close to 6%.
Well, Bill Morneau maths wrong all the time. It happens.
Yeah, I could basically be in government at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to drink more first.
Well, I've already got a beard. Tune in next week to find out what that means.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do news again, and we're not doing gun news for the entire show for the first time in a month.
Stay tuned for episode 223 for all AR-15 news all the time.
That's coming up. That's a good idea. We could definitely do that.
So a lot of calibers coming up.
Yeah.
First thing, we've got two articles. I'll do the headlines, and then we can talk about them. In the Ottawa Citizen, Canadian military temporarily suspends all Iraq training. Troops will focus on their own safety. So the UN has declared that everyone, it's not just the Canadians, but we were the people currently in Afghanistan training the Iraqis, are not going to be doing that as part of Operation Impact until the current issue that the Americans are starting with Iran is settled. The follow-up to this is in the Toronto Sun. This is from Brian Lilly. NDP MPPs sing and chant, as dead terrorist honored. Ian, please.
No, I'm trying to gather up my thoughts to the point of a coherent, non-inflammatory sentence at this point. Just bear with me.
I think we all
I have a number of
few those.
inflammatory sentences.
Yeah.
What's that, Gavin?
Well, I guess they're not as inflamed as General What's-His-Face, but you know.
Oh,
Yeah, I guess my comment earlier when we were
man,
talking.
that joke really blows.
Yeah, it's the bomb. I don't doubt that this dude is a bad dude, right? Like, you don't get to be like the general of the Iranian military by being a nice guy. And like Iran as a whole doesn't exactly have the greatest of track records when it comes to all kinds of stuff.
Only for the last like 50 years, you know, since about 1974 for some reason.
Yeah, since like the Ayatollah of rock and roll took over. But like, you don't really just go and bomb the shit out of people for like
Existing.
just out of nowhere. And if you're going to do it, you better just like get them all so they don't retaliate, especially when it comes to like honor bound cultures that are honor bound to retaliate and take vengeance.
Especially when his daughter is a U.S. citizen living in the U.S.
Yeah.
And threatening to do some suicide bombs operations and stuff already.
Wonderful.
Although I'm not sure why she's advertising it, but whatever, you know.
Great, grand, wonderful.
Millennials, man.
Yeah. If they don't tweet it, did it ever really happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't imagine that this Suleiman fellow was a good person, because, you know, the head of Iranian intelligence and special forces.
Yeah, like,
but also he's the head of like Iranian military intelligence and their special forces.
Yeah.
You can't just go around assassinating people. We have rules. We live in a society.
Yeah.
So I take issue with this, and I take issue with both sides of what the Americans are doing, both on the left and the right of this argument, both in our country and in America. If this was the person who was convincing Iraqis to attack a U.S. embassy in Iraq, okay, that's bad, but also this is not how diplomacy is conducted. This is not how we do international affairs. You can't just go around assassinating people.
And if you're going to do that, you do it in a way that's a lot more quiet and has plausible deniability.
Well, I mean, I think I don't like what the media is doing with this, is because they're calling it an assassination, and the left is calling it and the right is calling it of a terrorist. And I don't think that either of these statements are factually accurate. I don't think that this was an assassination, like within the definition of an assassination. Yes, they killed a military leader of another country, but they didn't do it in like a way that, as Gavin mentioned, is plausibly deniable, the way that you typically do an assassination. They bombed a dude with a bomb.
Yeah, no
big one.
No two bullets to the back of the head and claim it as suicide or anything else.
Yeah, he wasn't found hanging from a rope in his cell, unlike certain other people the Americans want to not deal with for reasons.
Yeah.
So, and also to say that the leader of their military intelligence and special forces is also a terrorist, I think is a bit of a stretch, especially considering that 2 weeks ago, if you asked anyone in the Western Hemisphere who Qasem Soleimani was, no one would be able to tell you. If this dude was that big of a deal, he'd be right up there next to like UBL and be on the front page of the New York Times for years. Maybe, like with UBL, the Americans might mention that they spent 20 years funding this guy fighting the precursors to ISIS.
Yeah. Which is
that might be a thing that's worthwhile to mention.
Recently stopped paying him and now have decided to blow him up.
Yeah, it's funny how they stopped paying him and they've decided that, well, he's visiting another country. Because notice they didn't bomb him while he was in Iran. They bombed him while he was on a diplomatic mission in Iraq.
Well, I mean,
Right? Like
it's okay to bomb Iraq. They've been doing that for, what, 20 years at this point?
Yeah, 19 years.
Yeah.
Which is its whole own other problem. And if the Americans were really serious, so if the American Democrats in the Senate were serious about impeaching Donald Trump, this would be what they would do it on. I mean, Nancy Pelosi would get off her ass. She'd send the articles of impeachment from the House to the Senate. The Senate would hold trial, and they would add a charge. Because when they impeach someone, they can add things to the articles. They can add charges to those. This is a part of U.S. law that already exists. It's not a new thing. It's just they don't impeach presidents very often. If they wanted to charge him with something that would actually get him out of the White House, if the Democrats were serious about impeaching Ronald Trump, they would impeach him for breaking actual black letter U.S. law, because there's a U.S. code that says you're not allowed to assassinate the heads of other governments. But the Democrats aren't serious about impeaching this asshole. It's not going to happen. It's all dog and pony to keep the American politics entertaining as best as they can. It's not even an entertaining circus at this point, but it's all about trying to keep it entertaining until the next election so that they can install whoever is going to replace Ronald Trump. That's all it is. This infuriates me on so many levels.
Yeah,
they're trying to start another war in the Middle East to appease certain factions that are at play, and are eventually going to do this on
the other ones that we're doing. Yeah.
Well, I think they're honestly hoping that there's some pushback on this from the Iranians, just to justify, like you said, it's justify starting a larger conflagration, so to speak.
Yeah.
Another thing we don't need to be doing. We don't need the Americans starting another war in the Middle East.
No, because inevitably we're going to get roped into it.
Well, really,
it'll be the same thing as
it's been too quiet there lately, anyway.
Canadians have been ordered to stand down, training the Iraqi military to focus on their own safety, because the Iranians are talking about retaliatory strikes on U.S. assets. Guess where the Canadians are? Primarily based in U.S. assets in the region.
Yeah,
we don't have our own bases there.
Even if that doesn't, the UN will step in, and then all they're going to do is send the little blue helmet covers to the guys that are already over there and get them to wear those, and then get shot at, and they can't even shoot back at that point, because somehow, apparently, when you put the little blue helmet cover on, your rifle doesn't work.
I would say in the vast majority of cases with the UN, yes, that's true, although the way that Canadians conduct UN operations, that tends to be the exception. Look at Kosovo and Rwanda, for examples. We tend to shoot back.
Yeah, sometimes. Not nearly enough, though.
No, not nearly enough, and we shouldn't be involved in the first place.
Well,
and this whole thing is going to justify what I hope is the last adventure in... I totally lost the word. The American hegemony's adventures in the Middle East. I really hope that this is their last hurrah with this, because I don't think the Americans can suffer another 20-year low-scale, like low-intensity conflict with an unorganized enemy who actually wants to go to war with and kill them.
Yeah.
I mean, exporting democracy has not been working so far.
I think I could argue that exporting democracy hasn't worked since 1964.
Yeah. I mean, is it really democracy, though, when, like... I mean, the U.S. is being pointed at certain countries by certain people. Is a way to put it politely. And not get us kicked off of the YouTubes. And it's not democracy when it's not about freedom and it's about pushing other people's agendas.
Well, and this is definitely pushing other people's agendas.
And making people rich.
Yeah.
It is. And a lot of this is going to be spun on the auspices of democracy, and the underlying cause that they're going to cite is oil. But that's not really...
Yeah.
That's not why we're doing it. We're doing this at the behest of Global Homo because Iran won't trade petroleum products for U.S. dollars. Iran is not playing the petrodollar game. They're not interested, and they're not buying all of the Global Homo products that are being sold in Clown World.
Huh.
whether we agree or disagree with the position of that country, or even with you could say a majority of their citizens, which I don't believe is the case. Maybe since the Ayatollah of rock and roll took over in 1974, maybe the majority of their population doesn't want a Shiite law like enforcing Muslim rule over their country. Maybe their people don't want that, and it's just the people at the top that are forcing the country to be that way. I don't think that's the case. I think they're quite happy to have a homogenous society where they all get along and they have a relatively stable welfare state and their people are relatively well taken care of compared to all of the other countries in that region.
Yeah, they're way more violent and unstable.
But they're willing to do that violence to keep things like in check. They're willing to do the violence to they're willing to put up their red war flag on their holy sites to say that like they're ready to start killing people. Like
it's on.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we have drag queen story time. Who's got a more serious country? Because I don't feel like it's the people with drag queen story hour.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's over there trying to get the government to force people to wax the balls. That's for sure.
Right, because they just throw those people off of roofs. Whether it's right or wrong, they deal with that problem and they stop it from being a problem. Here we have to entertain them and we have human rights tribunals and we have to pay them and address them by their preferred pronoun and all of this other honk nonsense. And they're like, yeah, no, we're just going to bomb U.S. targets and retaliate for this nonsense, which I can't fault them for.
Yeah, I mean, somebody did bomb their general.
Right? Like, if somebody bombed an American general, you don't think the Americans would be like, yeah, we're just going to nuke that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did see one thing. I think it was Iran's foreign minister threatened on Twitter to start naming names of the U.S. government officials that were involved in Iran's nuclear program.
Yeah, bring it on.
I really hope that they do. I really hope they start naming names because I'd like to know which Clinton helped them exactly.
Yeah, was it both of them? Or just the one that isn't your president?
I thought it's kind of interesting. That's the first time I've seen in a while a actual country put a bounty on a foreign head of state. That appeared that was $60 million for the Donald's head.
But that's what I mean. Like, as ridiculous as it sounds, that is the action of a serious country. They're pissed, rightfully so.
Yeah,
right? Like.
Don't worry. Yep. That's me. When the war kicks off, they'll draft all the climate change activists first.
Yeah, all the people that voted against guns and are,
sorry,
Greta Thunberg enthusiasts, all go to the front of the lines.
Yeah, I'll be too old. Then I'll be in jail.
Yeah.
Should we touch about the NDP MPPs from Quebec that showed up at the protest honoring the dead terrorist?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they actually had their hand on the flag, but the Hezbollah flag was an interesting sight.
And again, the media is pushing a lot of narratives and a lot of talking points to the public that hadn't heard about this particular general or anything that they had funded from the Quds forces. 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have been able to tell me who Quds had funded. Now you can tell me it's Hezbollah and al-Nusra and all of these other Sunni militia groups. Would someone care to explain to me why a predominantly Shiite regime in Iran would be backing Sunni militias? Because those aren't the same brand of crazy. They're related brands of crazy, but they're not the same brand of crazy.
They tend not to get along as a general rule.
Yeah.
No, they tend to not get along at all. So why would they be backing Hezbollah? Something about this doesn't make sense. It makes sense to me that Iran would be a predominant powerhouse in that part of the world because they're a Sunni majority country. They have a relatively stable, albeit crazy regime. They have a massive supply of oil that they're willing to trade with people, not the Americans, for not American dollars. Why would countries like Iraq not cozy up to them? That's right.
Or
Like,
any other country. Yeah.
remember before they got rid of Saddam in Iraq, the Ba'athist Party was predominantly agnostic. Like, they were not the crazy religious variety of Muslims. They were like the non-observant variety. So it makes sense to me that they would get along with the Sunnis, which they did, because the Americans tried to invent the Iran-Iraq war. And then, like 4 years later, Iran went and invaded Iraq as a result of that, because the Americans were backing stupid policy at the time. What was that? That was under Bush the First? Carter. That's right. That was under Carter. So, meanwhile, we have Canadian MPPs that are joining rallies to celebrate this, and what the fuck? I love the NDP now. Like,
let's not say things we can't take back.
Please make that a soundbite for the intro.
But I mean, like, really though, an anti-war protest, because we shouldn't be going to war with Iran, and we shouldn't be encouraging the Americans, you know, our largest trading partner, to be going to war with Iran. I suddenly find myself agreeing with the NDP for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
it happens rarely, but.
And yeah, we were talking about repercussions down the line for me, and I was like, let's go work on my degree. You know where? For free. I'm not going to war for that. Yeah, no.
We absolutely should not be. No, I don't think that I don't think it's good optics for any MP from any party to be standing under flags of violent extremists like Hezbollah, but we also should definitely not be going to war with Iran, because that's a fucking stupid idea.
Well, I mean, especially our good old buddy Oliver North, not to be confused with Peter North, different types of, hot loads.
That's the much more responsible older brother.
Yeah.
Different type of guns he was dealing with.
One sold Iran a shit ton of weapons back in the day and everything else. So, we know they got the good stuff. So, yeah, probably not a good idea to go to war with them.
Well, and why would we? It still baffles me. Why would we even go to war with these people like this?
Yeah.
Trump has said for years while he's been in power that we're not going to go to war with Iran. They're not our greatest ally, but they're okay. And we're not going to go to war with all these. We're not going to make things worse in the Middle East. This is the worst trade deal ever. And he's talked about all of this stuff, how they're not. And then now, in retaliation for something that can't be directly tied to this guy, the attack on a U.S. embassy, we bombed the shit out of him and other military officials, including Iraqis, who the Western coalition forces are ostensibly there to support. Well, I'm not an expert in geopolitics, but it seems to me like if you wanted to destabilize a region, maybe you should invade them and then kill their leaders. Seems like a thing you might want to do.
Yeah.
I've had enough of these guys. Shall we talk about e-petitions?
Yeah, let's talk about e-petitions.
All right. On to e-petitions.
Yeah. World War III to the Boogaloo. Here we go.
Well, this is slightly older Boogaloo, but I figure it bears repeating with the e-petition that's currently making the rounds. Do you happen to remember what that e-petition number is? It's 1234.
Those are the right numbers, but not in that order. It is like 22341 or 1329 or 6.
This is something. Like when I entered the security code on the door at work. I know the numbers, just not the sequence.
Yeah.
So this article is from August the 1st of this year. These were the most signed e-petitions sent to the Trudeau government. So bearing in mind that this is slightly out of date, but I think it bears repeating because we've talked about it before.
2341.
Okay, so if you like owning private property and are not a communist, you should probably go and sign e-petition 2341. Check back in previous show notes for links to that. Hell, I might even put it in this one to make it easy for you. E-petition 2341 is the petition where gun owners are telling the government that if you want to buy back or ban or otherwise take away our legally owned firearms, that you should do that through the correct processes, i.e. due process, not through orders in council which are arbitrary and not actual law and not the way that orders in council are designed to work. Because if you want to separate me from my property, you should have to argue about it in Parliament first and pass a fucking law. So if you like having private property and aren't a communist, you should probably go look into the e-petition E2341 and sign it. I think there's like 60,000 signatures on it right now.
Yeah,
it's over that. I think it's number 3 already.
It's I just pulled it up. 74,146 as of about a minute and a half ago.
But so if you like private property and aren't a fucking communist, you should go and look at that. If you are a fucking communist, you should throw yourself directly out of the helicopter.
But sign the petition first. But no, seriously, even like if we happen to have someone on the show that's listening, Chris, like you say, is that it could be anyone's first show, and you don't know that we like guns and talk about guns a lot, even if you do not like guns yourself, this pertains to you because this sets a very, very dangerous precedent in that if they are able to get away with using order in council to take away our private property, in this case firearms, then they could decide to do that with anything. So this is where we need to draw that line and say, no, this is absolutely not the way to do it, because who knows, next it could be cars or it could be anything that they just decide that they don't like.
Well, yeah, because we always joke about being an elected dictatorship for 4 years, but now you're going to make it official and just they can rule by decree, which, what's the point of even voting at that point and, bring on the reset? Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
We've had that argument. We can have that argument some more. I'm happy to do that. But let's look at some petitions.
Yep.
Number 5. We're going to do a Jimmy Kimmel style countdown. Jimmy Kimmel does that, right? I don't know who does that.
They all do. Yeah, they all do.
Letterman did it. They all did it.
Yeah.
All right.
They're all the
Number
same
5. person.
Canadian
Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Sharia law. This is 57,000 signatures. They said that the Sharia law and separate Sharia family courts have no place in Canada. The government told them to pound sand. Okay. So I guess that's a tacit endorsement of Sharia law?
Oh, no, that's not even tacit. That's just in your face.
I mean, I, for one, welcome our new Sunni overlords.
No, I mean, they specifically told them to pound Middle Eastern sand, I believe.
Well, I mean, the precedent's been set. So you got your English common law, you got your, Napoleonic Code in Quebec. You got, in certain parts of Toronto, I think we discussed this before, you can do, be tried under Jewish law. You have healing circles for the indigenous people. What's one more set of rules? I mean, at this point, right? I mean, so it's coming. It's just a matter of when.
I'm just going to say now for everybody listening that I'm very fluid when it comes to everything. So I'm going to go and abide by whichever set of laws makes it easier for me to get out of punishment. And because I've said it now publicly, it's true. And therefore it must be held so by the government and all the people, right? That's how that works, right?
Well, if that doesn't work out for you, you could always sue them for not shaving your balls.
Or start your own religion. We talked about that too. You can get your own set of religious laws.
Number 4, immigration and the UN Migration Compact. And this was 68,000 signatures. This one was actually by Max Bernier. So this was the idea was to abandon the UN Compact on migration. This is the thing that set quotas on the UN's, I forget what they called it. It was the clear and regular migration, something like this.
Yeah, I don't know. Basically open borders.
But it was open borders. It was all of the migration all the time.
Yeah.
And the government's response is that the text is not legally binding, except we signed a UN resolution saying that it would be. So, minor detail about it being legally binding. Yeah. I mean, it's only a UN resolution. How much weight does that carry? Precisely as much weight as our government wants to let it, which is, in the case of our current government, all of the weight.
Yeah.
An infinity amount of weight. So, the state sovereignty is not to be affected. Canada and Canadians can only benefit from other countries improving their own migration management to deter irregular migration and provide pathways for those who want to migrate regularly. Oh, that's what it was called. Regular and orderly migration. That's what the UN was calling it. So, we have decided that we've signed onto this thing, and tough luck for those of you that don't want it.
Yeah.
Number 3, condemning Islamophobia. 70,000 signatures. This was sponsored by a Liberal MP. Recently, an infinitesimally small number of extremist individuals have conducted terrorist activities while claiming to speak for the religion of Islam. Their actions have been used as a pretext for a notable rise in anti-Muslim sentiments in Canada. They in no way represent the religion, the beliefs, and the desire of Muslims to coexist in peace with all peoples of the world. You know, except for those pesky Sunni Muslims that want to blow everybody up and are not afraid to say it. So I guess we're only talking about those other Muslims.
That's right.
Not the ones that repeatedly tell you that they want to kill the infidels.
Yeah.
Again, recognizing that this is not all Muslims and a large number of Muslims are secular, and also you have people like Baathists and Sunnis and other sects of Muslim where they don't walk around telling you they want to kill you. Unlike those pesky Sunnis.
Yeah.
The government's response? The government of Canada condemns all forms of racism and discrimination, including Islamophobia. So I guess we condemn Islamophobia.
Okay.
That's one.
Yeah.
Keep that score in mind for later. So far we've done 3, and the government's on board with one of those things. The thing where people that tell you they want to kill you must not know what they're talking about and don't actually want to kill you. But separate point.
Yeah, whatever.
Number two. Firearms Bill C-71. 86,000 signatures. I don't even know where to start with this one. The petition, which puts forward the bill to become law, asserts that the law does nothing to tackle firearms violence, but rather adds to further red tape of law-abiding firearms owners. C-71 is the thing that has enforced the new, most recent round of prohibited firearms with the CZ-858 and the Swiss Arms rifles. The new classes of prohibited rifles, which remain yet to be seen, whatever they are, although it creates...
Yeah, all of these
classes.
super dangerous things that they've created these classes for that have yet to actually been enacted.
But they do nothing to target criminals or gangs or illegal guns or smuggled firearms. They only target legal, law-abiding gun owners who have firearms licenses that are issued by our federal police force and are subject to daily background checks and have to ask the government for permission in order to acquire new firearms.
Yeah, and are scrutinized more than the aforementioned crazy people that we know are in our country after returning from wherever crazy country they went.
Those foreign travelers.
We don't want to know that those Muslim extremists want to kill us. The fact that they keep saying they want to kill us doesn't actually mean that that's what they want. Clearly, our government knows best. The government's response to the Bill C-71 petition: to keep communities safe, the government is strengthening Canada's firearms laws in a common sense, focused, and effective way. Bullshit.
Fact-based. Oh, yeah.
Remember the part earlier where I mentioned it affected legal gun owners and not criminals? Any type of criminal of any stripe, only the Canadians that care about the way the law is written?
Do you remember how many times gang or criminal was mentioned in C-71, the entire wording?
0.
How many times was firearms owner mentioned?
All of. I forget what it was, like 4 dozen. It was like almost 50.
Yeah.
Well,
or license holder and firearms owner, I do believe, was mentioned like at least 50 times each, but
too many times. Yeah.
All right. Number one. Implementing electoral reform. This is from an NDP member. 130,000 signatures. 130,000 signatures. You may also remember that when the Liberals campaigned for their previous government, the 42nd Parliament, one of their mandates when they became the government was electoral reform and ensuring that was the first past the post election in Canadian history.
Yeah, I believe there's even a quote with Trudeau saying those exact words.
Well, maybe not those exact words because I'm paraphrasing and drinking.
And but like this will be the last election.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
That was pretty much exactly what he had said. Was this would be the last election
Give or
for
take a word or
Canadians
two.
where we use first past the post.
Yeah.
We're currently in the 43rd Parliament, which was elected using first past the post.
Yeah. And we used to have a electoral reform minister, my favorite minister, in fact.
Was it Marion Monsef?
Yeah, but then they decided that wasn't a thing, so they like rebranded her position to something else. And I'm still not really sure if they figured out her legal status in the country or not.
Well,
It
they don't
doesn't
want
matter.
to.
Literally doesn't matter.
Okay. Because, she kind of lied about where she was from. But whatever.
So this petition has the most. It's 40,000 signatures ahead of the firearms petition that we just spoke about. It was a promise, nay, a mandate of the elected government to eliminate first past the post and implement electoral reform.
God, I wish they would have done that.
The government's response? Changing the electoral system is not in the minister's mandate. The Minister of Electoral Reform, Marion Monsef. Changing the electoral system is not in the minister's mandate.
That sounds
The
like
government
government.
of Canada. So go ahead, Ian.
That sounds like government speak for eat a bag of dicks.
Well, let me read the rest of the response because it's
Eat a bag of
something like
Funny enough, you mentioned that.
Oh, that's exactly what it says.
Actually, the government of Canada will continue to work to strengthen and protect our democratic institutions and ensure they represent the values of Canadians. The government looks forward to the important work ahead, but has no plans whatsoever to change how we elect governments in this country, because we all recognize that first past the post is stupid and ineffective and doesn't work. But changing it means that the Liberals will stop winning elections, so we're just not going to fucking do it.
Just like they wouldn't have won this last one.
Yeah, ironic.
Weird.
That is, much like the Alanis Morissette song, not actually an example of irony.
No. She set the new definition. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. We're
She's a
using
Canadian
this.
icon. She's reclaimed the word.
Uh-huh. So, just black pill moment for our listeners. I apologize. The most popular e-petition in the history of our government, the most popular petition, never mind e, electronic or otherwise, the most popular petition of our government has 130,000 signatures in a country of 33 million people, and was a promise that was made by the government that was subsequently elected, that should have been a slam dunk change to make. And the government told everyone to fuck off. What precisely do we think as firearms owners is going to happen when we get 140,000 signatures? Which, again, blows my mind. 2.2 million licensed gun owners in this country. And in the course of 3 weeks, we've managed to get 86,000 signatures, you said?
Yeah.
Yep.
70.
Absolutely.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah.
Whatever it was.
Nowhere near 2.2.
Not even 1 million. Not even 100,000. 10%. Not even 10% of gun owners could be bothered to sign a fucking e-petition. Fuck you. You don't deserve to have guns.
He's not wrong.
No.
We're our own worst enemy.
Mean and black pill, but like, Gavin's right. We're our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
2.2 million gun owners. Almost 10% of the country. We have a population of 33 million people, not 33 million eligible voters. We have a population of 33 million people. We have 2.2 million gun owners in this country, and we can't vote as a fucking block and get our shit together? You don't deserve to own guns. You bring this upon yourselves.
Yeah, so I mean, I was at the gun club on the 24th, actually, during the day. And I was out on the rifle range area, actually the action range, with a couple of friends. And there were a couple of old guys down on the plate rack there shooting handgun. So you'd think, all right, they're restricted firearms owners, handguns. They should kind of know what the fuck's going on, at least a little bit. So they came over to where I was, and I kind of went over to go talk to them because, like, this is my range right now. Like, what the fuck are you doing here? And they're like, oh, it sounded like somebody was shooting an AR. I was like, oh, yeah, no, we are. Like, that's what we're doing here. And I brought a couple of my other rifles out, to stretch their legs before they go prohib. Because I may or may not have a few things that are allegedly prohib or going prohib. And the guy was like, "Oh, that's happening?" I was like, "Yeah, that's happening." Like, the C71
He's a
has already
member
brought in
of a gun club that I know sent him an email explaining it was happening and
you're the one
told him
that
to
sent
sign the
email.
petition.
Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, it's happening." And he's like, "Oh, well, whatever. We don't need AKs anyways." I was like,
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
and I was like, it's not AKs, but like they're no different than any other rifle, so I don't see what the problem is. And then like he kind of just like mumbled something and walked off. But it's like these are people that like have skin in the game. Like it's not your typical like FUD that only has like a hunting rifle. Like these guys are out there shooting handguns. They should know better. But no, they don't give a shit. They're not aware. They certainly aren't going to go sign some e-petition that takes all of about 30 seconds, if that.
Oh, my new favorite reason that people are giving for not signing the e-petition is because you have to submit your information and the government will know who you are. Motherfucker, you have a firearms license.
Every day.
The government already knows who you are.
Well, that and like, I think we all know that, like, 140 something thousand people for a promise that they made to get elected and they told them to fuck off. I think we all know that this isn't going to work. But
it's not going to work, but we need
the 30 fucking seconds. Yeah.
Right.
Like,
then that's the thing is like for the good optics, for when the time comes to quote Greta Thunberg and put people up against the wall, for the good optics, we need to have the signatures to say that the people of Canada didn't want your bullshit global homo honk honk nonsense. Just leave us alone with our guns.
Yeah, like
just leave us alone.
There's 4 boxes of liberty. You can't go to the 4th box right away. You have to try the other ones first.
Do you want to remind our newer listeners what the 4 boxes of liberty are? Yes,
there's the soapbox, which we've been doing for 200 and how many episodes is this? 3 episodes?
209.
209? Nice. So, so we've been doing that, and I've certainly been doing that on Facebook, and so has everybody else, telling people about this shit. So that's your soapbox. Then you have the ballot box, and we certainly tried that, but without the electoral reform thing, that kind of fell flat on our face. Then there's the jurors box, which is what we're all going to do when we don't comply to their nonsense and get arrested. And then the last one is the ammo box, which is what you do once you've voted communism in, you have to shoot your way out. Just look at Venezuela. Oh, wait, they don't have guns to shoot their way out.
Yeah, because they, happily went along and handed in their guns, as did a lot of other groups.
Don't hand in shit. I mean, allegedly.
Yeah. But also use the other fucking 3 boxes before we have to go to the 4th box, because nobody wants to do the 4th one.
Well, let's not get carried away.
Yes.
I mean, yes, the Tree of Liberty does need to be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants alike. However, I don't really want to be the one that's watering it. Unless I'm the one that's making the grass grow as well. But, like, that's a different thing.
I mean,
it just better not be my blood.
I don't particularly like Jefferson, but that is a pretty good quote. I'm more of a Mencken guy. Every normal man must be tempted at times to spit on his hands, hoist the black flag, and begin splitting throats.
Yeah. Like, if you look at the guys in Yugoslavia, up until the 90s, I'm sure they were fairly peaceful and trying to figure out ways to work amongst their neighbors, and then eventually got to the ammo box stage.
Yeah.
And within a few months, Sarajevo was boxed in and getting shelled on a regular basis on the daily.
Yeah.
You don't think our government's going to try and ethnically cleanse certain groups, do you?
Well, we don't have to sew a star on our chest anymore, since we've already got electronically digital signatures attached to our license that says exactly who we are, where we live. So,
because we signed those e-petitions.
because you signed those e-petitions, which totally gave it away. But
yeah.
Disappointing. Things that are not disappointing. Toronto Sun. Canadian flag flown upside down at the City of Toronto welcome sign. I feel like somebody works for the city and also listens to the show.
I do agree the nation is in distress.
Yeah, you are not wrong, good sir.
I do too agree with this, and I would like to take credit that CPP was the place on the Facebook where we flipped the flag first. Well, I specifically went onto the Facebook and I did not flip a flag. I put in an upside down maple leaf.
Yeah.
Because the whole flag in distress upside down thing was not a thing that I wanted to go with, but I was very disappointed with our most recent election. And I've been pleasantly surprised to see a large number of Facebook commenters that also have variations of that upside down maple leaf.
Yeah, we may not have been the first to do that, but we were certainly first to flip the bird. That's for sure.
That was us. So I don't know if this was an accident or an on purpose, or somebody that works for the city maintenance, or I guess this is contracted out to a third-party advertising company that maintains this welcome sign. So I don't know if this was like an on-purpose thing or a vigilante thing that somebody like ran over and did it when no one was looking, but however this came about, good on you.
Yeah.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah. But they do sometimes turn flags upside down.
That's right.
The City of Toronto, by the way, says the upside down flag should be addressed within the next day or two of the time of the
How long does it
article being written.
take them to, like, you
It
think
depends
that, like,
on staff availability.
Yeah.
Well, you got to make a work order, and then you got to phone the appropriate people and approve the overtime, and assign it in order of seniority, and this takes
Or
time.
like a guy could just go out and fix it. Fuck, I hate government. Like,
well, and they have to have a manager, put in charge of it.
Well, yeah. You know what they should do?
Minions.
This is exactly what order and council is for. Just fucking make it happen.
A good point. Let's go to Edmonton. This is not exactly Wexit, but we're gonna kind of touch on some Western Canadian things. I thought it was BS. Alberta drivers facing higher insurance costs. The government of Alberta lifted a previous cap on insurance companies adjusting their rates, and some Alberta drivers are seeing increases in the neighborhood of 25% on their insurance premiums.
Stop driving hammered, and then you won't have that problem.
I don't even think that's the problem. I think it literally was just like the government opened up the market, and the market was like, well, we don't make enough profit, so... Boop.
Well, I mean, I do know, like, from having run a business out there, well, continuing to run a business out there, where I've got guys on the road, automobile repair costs and things like that are a lot higher out there because there's a lot of stone chips and stuff like that on windshields, and just like the roads are shittier, so there's a lot more wear and tear. So I imagine people are just putting more shit through their insurance so that they don't have to pay for it.
Oh, they're gonna pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that is the justifications given in the article, is that on average the number of claims is going up, and the insurance companies are losing money on this, so the insurance companies have been allowed to adjust, and they're adjusting in favor of themselves making more money.
What?
Shocking that. Let's go a little bit further west. This is in the VancouverIsAwesome.com, which seems like a legit news source, but
it's as legit as any other source out there.
Yeah.
Let's have Adder. Metro Vancouver driver too drunk to explain loaded handgun with silencer. Okay, raise your hand if you've been there.
Yeah, I've had a time for every time I've been drinking nonstop for several days, packing a pistol with a silencer, wearing body armor, driving through town. I mean, oh jeez.
Yeah.
A 29-year-old man driving drunk through Burnaby while wearing body armor and packing a loaded semi-automatic pistol equipped with a silencer has been sentenced to 3.5 years in jail.
Can I say this? This
Honk.
is the most libertarian crime ever. Like,
but the best part is, like, what are you doing there with that silencer? I don't know.
I've been drinking.
I can't die. I've been drinking so long I forgot.
Yeah. That dude was seriously fucking ready for the boogaloo. That's for sure.
He's probably all sad that it hadn't happened yet. He was waiting for it to get
No, this guy
off.
got going early.
He
Yeah.
started the party thinking it was
This is-
happening tomorrow.
So
Like,
the impetus for the article being written is because the sentencing has been conducted. This dude got arrested in June of 2017.
Yeah.
It took 2.5 years to sentence him to 3.5 years.
Yeah. Like,
but the best part is, again, this isn't his first attempt at being ultra libertarian either, right? I mean, he was under 4 separate orders prohibiting him from possessing firearms. So turns out the gun laws didn't work.
no, nor did drunk driving laws.
Oh.
Or body armor laws, I guess,
Yeah.
in BC. Because if
Or
you
prohibited
have a pal, you
devices,
can't,
or breach of ATT or anything else. He gets 3.5 years for all those charges. I mean, even not even abiding by a weapons prohibition, which is right alone, I think isn't that like a minimum sentence
Well,
right there?
If
It's
we
supposed
had
to be a
been
5-year mandatory minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if we had been stone sober, driving to the range to go shooting, and forgot a slip of paper, we would have got more than that.
Yeah.
That's the part that's friggin' retarded.
Like, this guy's already not supposed to have anything, let alone slips of paper. You know, like,
Well,
and
I
then
mean,
there
if you're not allowed to have anything and you're
you
going
might
to
as
have a
go whole
gun,
hog,
you may
yeah.
as well have a gun and a suppressor
That's right.
and body armor and be wasted.
And drive around with it loaded and so on. So
Maybe he's
this
waiting-
is...
Maybe he's just waiting for that big horn to go off, like the Purge. It's like, I got 12 hours. Let's do this.
So I'm not going to say that gun laws don't work, but like this seems like a really good example of gun laws not being very effective.
Or any law.
Yeah. But don't
Yeah, 'cause
worry.
this guy was just like, I see your law and I disregard it.
But don't worry. He's been handed a lifetime firearms ban. This will never happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will be his 5th lifetime's firearm ban now.
So this
But
time
that-
they mean
Good.
it.
I'm sure
But
this
this
time
time-
it'll stick.
Yeah. You promise, right?
Yeah. The only way that this would have been better is if like the guy had gotten like out of the car when he had got arrested and been like, there was a firefight, and just started like firing it into the air.
Yeah, so then I started blasting.
Yeah.
God. I mean, I kind of want to know who this dude is because he sounds like he could be a good time, but at the same time, I kind of want nothing to do with this guy because he sounds completely fucking unhinged.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's one of those yin and yang things. You got to offset the peace, love, and hippies with guys like this. It's you got to maintain the balance, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some balance. Yeah. A little
He didn't
front
have
heavy with
much
the
of it,
suppressor,
but-
I imagine, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully he had the right height sights on it. If not, though, I'm sure he can contact Sites for Nights and get them sorted
That's
out.
right. Remember to reach out to sitesfornights.org. Get your
Yeah.
homies hooked up.
Yeah.
All right. In the Red Star, 292 people shot. 2019 comes to a close as Toronto's bloodiest year on record for overall gun violence. That's right. 2019 surpassed the year of the gun. I wonder why. It's almost like criminals in Toronto don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and we haven't done anything to combat it. Like all that money that we fucking bookmarked didn't get spent until like the end of the year where it was too late. It's almost like they wanted it to happen. To push
I'm
a
not
narrative.
saying that Meritori wanted it to happen. I'm not saying that Mark Saunders, the chief of Toronto Police, wanted it to happen. But I am saying that those people did not go out of their way to prevent this from happening. We have seen that in Toronto, that the solution for reducing violence, not gun crimes, not gun violence, the solution for reducing violence in Toronto is carding. Allow police officers to ask sketchy-looking people what they're doing and collect some information. Because people that interact with the police are less likely to nefariously carry illegal weapons. Because they know they're going to have to interact with the police.
Yeah. Except for that guy out of BC, he didn't give a fuck.
He didn't give a fuck.
But everyone
He's
else,
a free man on the land.
everybody else seems to at least somewhat respect that. I mean, it used to be that, like, you know, all these guys, like, if they were, you know, gangbang or whatever, would, like, keep their piece in their car and would have to go get it, at least. Now they're just carrying the shit on them everywhere because there's no worry of the police coming up and carding them and taking information from them or anything else. So they don't care. They know that they can't be searched and that they can't be stopped. So they're getting bolder and bolder and bolder to the point where not that long ago, you had two guys go and just shoot a random dude for no fucking reason.
Because they were, the police were worried about being called racist.
Yeah.
Not the frontline officers, but the upper management.
Yeah. Like, I hate to say this, but like profiling works, man. There's a reason why people do it and why it's so effective. Doesn't always have to be along racial lines, but profiling works. So does carding.
Carding is just profiling with
exactly.
Records.
Exactly.
And I mean, if you're out at 2 a.m. wandering about the middle of the street in Toronto, I feel like the cops should stop you and ask you why. And if they find drugs and weapons on you, maybe you should go to jail for those things, because we have laws and we live in a society.
Yeah, I mean, I had that happen. I was stopped by the police one time and they asked for ID when I was like a teenager walking around late at night. I didn't have a problem with it. I wasn't up to no good, though. I was at a friend's house. We went to go get McDonald's down the street. That's what we were doing. That's what we told the cop. End of the interaction. We carried on our way. They carried on their way.
Fun anecdote. I lived in Toronto when I went to university, and I was mildly inebriated one evening after attending a sports and it was sports bar. The police decided they should stop me and ask me what I was doing. I, again, may have been mildly inebriated.
It happens.
And they were kind enough to return me to my domicile.
Well, that was nice of them.
Because they felt that maybe I shouldn't be wandering about in Toronto by myself when it was -20 out after I'd been drinking. I'm not upset about it. I just thought it was a fun interaction with the local law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, I find it mildly annoying when I was stopped, but I was like, whatever, like, we're a bunch of teenagers out at night. And I mean, to be fair, we had been drinking and smoking pot, but we weren't up to no good aside from that. And we did all of that at the house inside, out of the way. And we're now going to get snacks because we had the munchies.
That'll happen.
Yeah. But, we weren't being a nuisance. So no problem. They kind of stopped us because we probably looked a little suspicious. But once they kind of determined that we weren't doing anything stupid, at least overly, they let us go. No problem. No problem with cops being able to do that.
They're not carrying around illicit substances and illegal weapons.
Yeah.
It's almost like they don't care.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Wexit. We haven't talked about Alberta enough in a while. So, Trudeau says frustrations in Alberta, Saskatchewan don't amount to a national unity crisis. This is on the CBC.
This is the guy that can't even remember that Alberta is a fucking province.
So, go ahead, Ian.
The quote, "I don't think Albertans suddenly don't care about Canada," Prime Minister says. Oh, you may be mistaken on that one. Yeah.
No, he's right. It's not that sudden. Alberta has been building up an anti-Eastern Canada sentiment, an anti-Ottawa sentiment for years. I think we're finally getting to a point where it's become noticeable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, when the CBC asked the Prime Minister if he felt that his government's actions had contributed to the economic hardships facing Alberta, Trudeau blamed other things rather than admitting any culpability. Mostly this is the fault of us using oil, is what I gather from this. If we just didn't use that goddamn dirty oil, it would be fine. But don't worry. Literally the devil, Stephen Harper, couldn't get a pipeline deal done for the 10 years that he was the Prime Minister. I don't know where Trudeau learned how to do math, but that's the quote in the article, is that Stephen Harper tried to do that for 10 years in reference to building a pipeline for Alberta to get its oil to market. Okay, sure. Let's let Sockboy have that one.
Yeah. I mean,
Apparently, the Trudeau government's ready to rubber stamp the Trans Mountain Pipeline and get this shit done. But it's the fault of the energy economy that Alberta is facing the highest
'cause I thought
number
they
of per capita unemployed persons.
paid people to protest it at one point.
Yeah, it's
so
funny
that didn't
how they're
happen.
talking out of both sides of their face.
Or are they going to let this one happen because it's the Trans Mountain Pipeline?
They probably got confused.
Yeah. Well, it'll
So
happen.
they're backing the Trans Mountain Pipeline, but Alberta needs to figure out something other than that goddamn dirty oil to fix their economy, because that's not a good long-term solution.
Yeah.
You
Although,
know,
I mean,
except for like the next 4 decades worth of oil that we have to pump out of that province.
yeah. Although it looks like Kenny's been cucking lately, though, so that could stall some Wexit stuff.
Wow, Kenny has been cucking for a while. I'm not surprised by this. I mean, the Albertan on the YouTube brings up a good point. Separation, like Alberta's been talking about separation since the 80s.
Oh yeah,
This is not news.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is not news. It's a thing. Like Alberta has been getting screwed by the rest of the country for as long as they've been in Confederation. We've talked about this before. My take on this is a confederation of convenience. We're not a serious country. We're not a real country. We shouldn't be. It's far too big geographically for it to be run out of one place like Ottawa. Like we are an amalgam of no less than 4 other distinct national identities. I'm ready for Alberta to just be a province or just be a state. Big S. Just make them a country. Let them do their own thing. Make Western Canada, make the prairies their own thing. However they want to do that, I'm on board with that. And while we're at it, kick Quebec the fuck out.
Yeah. It's not like they're going to actually do anything to be able to separate all on their own. They've tried for God knows how long and haven't been able to do it.
Let's use that fun little segue. Why Alberta isn't treated more like Quebec? This is also on the CBC. It's an opinion piece. Take it for what you will. But I mean, it's also written by somebody who was a CBC journalist for the better part of a decade.
Yeah, so use the paper to wipe your ass, yeah.
The problem basically can be summed up with Quebec has to be courted for their votes because they'll vote whichever fucking way they feel like that day, whenever it's an election. Alberta votes conservative, or whatever we're calling it. Progressive conservative, reform, alliance, conservative, big C. It doesn't matter. The last 20 odd years, almost 25 years, Alberta has consistently voted blue. Whatever flavor of blue that is, they voted blue. Quebec's all over the bloody place. Quebec will vote PC. Quebec will vote Bloc. Quebec will vote Liberal. Quebec will vote NDP. Quebec's all over the place. So you have to...
Quebec votes for the French guy.
But it depends on the flavor of French guy.
Fair. But they preference a French guy. And then there's more than one French guy option.
Sometimes you want the traditional poutine. Sometimes you want the pulled pork poutine. Sometimes you want the chez guy.
Yeah. The super cucked poutine.
Right, but that's what I mean. Like,
it's just an empty container with nothing good in it at all.
Quebec, the politicians have to work for the vote. They have to promise the people of Quebec free shit. Whatever that is, like whoever it is, like look at the people that have won in Quebec in the last 25 years. It's the people that promise the people of Quebec, the French-speaking population of the country, the best gibs. If you give Quebec the best gibs, you get elected, and that's reflected year over year. When separation in Quebec was like a serious thing through the 90s and the early 2000s, it was the Bloc. 2011, it was the NDP. Now, it's the Liberal Party, because they're pandering the hardest to Quebec. Alberta votes conservative, because they're conservative. Because they work for a living. Because they're not getting billions of dollars in equalization payment. Because they're not getting preferential treatment from Ottawa. Because they have significantly fewer seats. Because in the grand scheme of things, how Alberta votes doesn't matter. How Quebec votes determines elections. But how Alberta votes doesn't change anything.
Sadly true.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not political whores like the Quebec voter basically that sells their vote to the highest bidder. You got the guys that basically are consistent and not easily wooed by free shit paid for by somebody else's money.
Yeah, this is why Alberta gets treated differently than Quebec. They don't have the seats, and they're not going to pander to votes. It's not how it works. Yeah, speaking of pandering, let's talk about the previous premier, a different sort of cuck of Alberta. This is
I
the
thought you were
Globe
going to
Mail.
ask for more liquor sponsors again, but this will work. Yeah.
Nobody wants to liquor sponsor.
Yeah. Ooh.
The Globe and Mail. Rachel Notley intends to run for premier in 2023 with the aim of getting Alberta back on track. I'm not saying that Kenny's a good premier or that I particularly like the man. But what the fuck is this woman smoking?
Obviously that legal weed. Maybe some PCP.
She wants to run off the rails on the crazy train again.
Yeah.
That's the track she wants.
Yeah, so I guess Notley thinks that the Kenny conservative government is doing a poor job and she's going to get reelected to fix Alberta?
I think they've realized their errors of the past, and that's not going to happen again for a very long time.
Well, I mean, the conservatives and the Wild Rose brought this on themselves. This was a backlash election that got Notley voted in. I can't imagine that the majority of people in Alberta being stupid enough to do this twice. Yes, Kenny is not a good premier. Kenny is probably a cuck. But that's still better than Notley.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good lesson in vote splitting right off the bat. That's how she got in, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's all it is. This was strictly because people were fed up with the right-leaning parties of Alberta. I hesitate to call them conservative because they're not. I mean, maybe the Wild Rose is kind of conservative, but I mean, they're not right-wing by any means. They're not
right-leaning, maybe is the way
marginally
to put it.
right of center.
Yeah, we don't have right-wing. We don't have right-wing parties in Canada.
No.
Further right than the NDP, but still left of center. Like,
yeah. They're gonna give you less free stuff. Let's put it that way.
Right, and that's So I can't imagine that Alberta is going to give Notley another go. So good for her for thinking there's a chance, but I can't
dream
imagine
big.
The people of Alberta are that stupid.
Yeah.
Good enough. All right, let's talk about TACOM. TACOM has been scheduled. TACOM Canada 2020 from September 11th to the 13th. Probably in Toronto, but it doesn't say in the ad read. I expect it to be at the International Center in Mississauga, but
International Center.
Yeah.
Well, if only somebody would provide me accurate ad read.
Yeah.
The Canadian Pro-Gun Podcasters Network will be in attendance at TACOM 2020. Your favorite podcasters will be on hand throughout the show, so make sure you stop by the booth to meet your favorites and pick up some swag. Or drop by while we do our special live broadcast where we'll be talking to event organizers, guest speakers, and vendors about all of their new and must-have product. You can see details for the show at www.tacomcanada.com and stay tuned for ticket release details. Did I do that better tonight than I did last night again?
Oh, fantastic.
That's good. I feel well lubricated.
Excellent. Speaking of, I will be in attendance for the show. So much like the charity shoot in Alberta this year, like if you would like to buy a podcast or a drink, just smuggle it into the show and give it to me and I'll drink it. That's cool.
Yeah, and I'll be about no further than like 2 arms length away from Gavin at that point, and I'll take free drinks too.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's free drinks involved, it might be worth the trip, but otherwise, I'm still not convinced.
I don't know. Maybe just make free drinks happen. We'll just,
Yeah. If you'd like to see us live podcast drunk from TACOM. You know what to do.
All right. Well, apologies to whoever founded the fledgling Canadian Program Podcasters Network. Sorry that your organization's about to be disbanded. CPP's here, and we brought booze.
If I could get all of our listeners to press F to pay respects for our livers at the show, that'd be fantastic.
TACOM 2020, September 11th to 13. Do a shot with Gavin for charity.
Yes. The charity is me.
Sites for Nights, I do believe.
Sites for Nights.
Yeah, I think we might need to have some Sites for Nights t-shirts on sale there for charity.
That's pretty good. I think we can talk to Tim's good t-shirts.
Yeah, if only we do a t-shirt guy, that'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up. Ian, where can everyone find you on the inner tubes?
You can find me at theislandretreat@gmail.com. You can also watch us do our thing on Canadian Prepper Podcast on Sunday nights, available on YouTube and iTunes.
Tuned in last night to hear me talk about beer where I was mostly sober.
Yeah, which is ironic.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
We can use that time.
But now he's drinking the beer he was talking about.
And
so
not doing his math right.
Yeah. Don't you have another thing coming, or do you want to not talk about that yet?
Charity shoot?
No, the other thing. The other YouTube thing.
I think we're not talking about that yet.
Yeah.
No, not talking about that. Anyways,
now there's some hype built about it, so people will be interested.
Yeah. Shout out to Random Dave before I forget for the awesome t-shirt. He says keep calm and fix bayonets. Yeah, basically I loaned him some magical boomsticks and ended up getting a couple surprises in the mail, so it was fantastic.
Nice. Random Dave is good people.
Stuff.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good guy. Yeah,
and I hear he fixed his full semi-auto pistol.
Yes, I saw the picture of that. Yeah.
Good for you, Dave. Good for you. You can find me typically on the Instagrams at urbex_GTA. Or if you happen to be in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks, I will be there for SHOT Show. And while I'm there, these were a hot ticket item before when they were patches, but I've got a couple of stickers made up. So if you find me and you're there, I might give you one. Buy me alcohol.
Your sales pitch is perfect. As always, my name is Andrew. You can find me at ragnaroktactical.ca. If you have listened to me complain about the government for this long, you deserve a discount. Enter the discount code Patriot at checkout and save some money on your order for firearms accessories, first aid supplies, quality nylon gear, or t-shirts. Visit ragnaroktactical.ca. We value your opinion. Leave feedback. I don't even know why we say that. I mean, I will read your opinion on the show. Saying I value it is very subjective. It depends on your opinion. I may or may not value it.
Well, I mean, we value that you've taken the time to give us content, and we may or may not ridicule it. How's that?
We'll address your opinion.
Yeah.
Provide me your redress of grievance.
Yeah. Is it
feedback
Festivus again?
Canadian paid. No, that's a different thing. That's the airing of grievances. The redress of grievances is a formal process.
Oh, okay.
Send me your grievance at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com and let me know how your chain of command has offended you. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. He knows the rules. One token Westerner at a time. The scenery in BC is pretty, but you can't eat scenery. So this week, Ian is on.
Sounds like he was busy with his pistol silencer body armor adventure anyway, so.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Rod Gill Tactical. His alter ego was out and about with the car.
He was practicing for Thunderdome and it went wrong.
That's right. Well, he was driving towards the island. Never thought about that.
And he had been drinking for days.
I'll Thunderdome you. Yeah.
For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I would like to remind you that you're the true. Oh shit! There's a comment on YouTube that I definitely need to address. Apologies. Thank you for bringing that up. Apparently the last podcast didn't include audio; it was only text.
That's for our
I
hearing
will,
impaired listeners only. Yeah.
Just start
I will
signing.
address last week's episode. Thank you for somebody for finally bringing that to my attention. It's probably been broken since I posted it. I thought it was just my phone acting up. All right, good stuff. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, you're the true north, strong and free, and maybe without audio for the hearing impaired.
Throwing up the sound.
Andrew,
I think
this is dangerous. Andrew has exited the show, but the live track is still going.
the live is still going.
Wrong button. I pushed the wrong button.
Some quality work there.
Yeah, for real this time.